Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Love and Reality Podcast. I am your host, Ricky Valero. On today's episode, we're going to continue to talk about Married at First Sight, season 18, right? We are watching these couples weekly as we inch closer and closer to decision day. And what we're going to do today is we're not going to recap everything that happened. We're going to talk about the couple. We're going to talk briefly about what happened in the episode, but we're going to talk about decision day. And each week from now until decision day happens, we're going to see how those odds fluctuated throughout the entirety of the season leading up to the decision day, and whether or not our predictions, which if you want to be interactive at home, please do so by leaving your thoughts in the comments below on what you think prediction-wise, where we're at with these couples. I would greatly appreciate it. But by the time decision day comes along, how closely are my predictions to what actually happened? Those are the type of things that I love to see and see what if they come to fruition. You know what I mean? Not every prediction we make is going to be right here on the show, but I love the idea of talking about these couples, breaking them down and dissecting. But more importantly, I love predicting. And you know what? The first couple we're going to talk about in this week's episode is going to be Madison and Alan. This is a couple I've been skeptical about since day one, right? I truly believe that this is a couple that has not been very in sync. And this week's episode talking about with the couples and their parents. He seems to be very kind of laid back and kind of like really taking the lack of attention and the attraction to, right on the chin here. You know what I mean? And I'll tell you what, the way that he handled that weird, very, very weird STD conversation with her parents was one of the wildest, craziest things I've ever seen in reality TV. It was insane. But again, I feel like he's continuously taking so much on the chin and doing a very good job of it. However, I just continue to think that she's so unattracted to him, right? Could it change? Yes, it really could. But to me right now, as far as decision day, I'm at like a 2 out of 10. I still think no matter what, he might be that guy that says, yeah, I'm going to be faithful. I want to stay married to you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. But I just don't foresee her being that invested, right? I don't know if it can happen. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on these two. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that crazy ass scene with his parents. But I really feel like Alan is a trooper. He's taking a lot of it on the chin. And because of that, I can't praise him enough for what he's been able to do. But enough about those two. Let me go ahead and wound up the next picture that we have here. We have Camille and Thomas. I know you guys like whenever I talk about the couples to have them on the screen here. So we're going to talk about a little about Camille and Thomas now. For this week's episode, there we go. All right, I had to find I had to find my notes here. I'll be honest with you. These two are probably going to be that next generation of Married at First Sight launching like, hey, we were right. You know what I mean? Because every one of these shows, like all of these love-based shows, they're going to be hit and miss. But as long as they continue to get people to get married and stay married, those are the things that they're going to tout and they're going to continue to be able to do this process with. And for me, that's why there's such a, a big age gap is something that's alarming, but I feel like there is some real raw moments between like Thomas's brother and the insights, and the family seem to be gelling very well. And I feel like to me that's really solidified this couple into catapulting them into the next phase on decision day. I'm a solid 8 out of 10. I'm never too confident because, we've seen in the past on these shows where you're like consistently going down the path of, yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. But I'm not ever going to be a 9 or a 10 out of 10 yet. Especially not this early in the stages. So I'm an 8 out of 10 right now on Camille and Thomas. All right. The next couple that we're going to talk about here, let me get to my screen ready, is Carla and Juan. All right, Carla and Juan. Let's get the picture on the big screen for you guys. All right, Carla and Juan, another couple that, man, I just, I just don't see it. I don't see them working. If you listen to my first episode, I specifically said these two were not going to work. Okay, and I feel that way still. I think Carla's stance on the finances um is big. I think that her she has just a different vibe to her than I think Juan does, right? I just don't think that Juan is adamant of this of the idea of Carla wanting to be the stay-at-home mom, right? She wants to kind of be that, and Juan's not very fond of that. And then, of course, you kind of have Juan who isn't, he isn't exactly enamored by that, but he's also not enamored by the idea of his family not really being involved and invested in this relationship. So it's one of those things that I don't think that she's attracted to this man. Let's start there. Two, they're not meshing when it comes to the idea of her wanting to be this stay-at-home parent while he thinks, they both should bring something to the table. And then of course his parents aren't really necessarily approving of the entire concept of this relationship. And that is huge. You cannot consistently be, on the wrong side of things and think that it's going to work, especially when parents have such a vital voice in processes like that. So for me, I'm at like a 1 out of 10 with these two. I have not been confident. I see some moments of like, all right, I get it. You know what I mean? But ultimately, these two just don't have what I believe it takes to make it to the next phase. So I'm definitely a 1 out of 10 on those two. All right. So next up, we have. So who do we got next? Amim and Ikechi. And then I'm going to share. Let's see here. Share my screen with you guys again. Look at this beautiful couple on the screen here. All right, a little side by side action here. All right, for these two, I will say I think I like them. I think their physical chemistry is strong, but their bonding over the upbringing, the similar taste. I really feel like that was really strong. But then Ikechi's confession he cheated though. That's something that lingers, man. Women just aren't like enamored by that, right? You know what I mean? Because the idea of the cheating aspect of thing, once a cheater, always a cheater. You can't really knock that mind frame of people out of their head, and that could cause a really really strong thing for them down the line to cause separation. That said, I do think that these two do work. And because of that, I'm really leaning on the side of a 6 out of 10 right now. I think it's a little hot. Maybe I might go 7. I think I might be 7 on these two. It's a 6 or so. Maybe let's go 6.5. We'll meet in the middle there. But I mean, Akechi, one moment I'm like strongly confident in these two. The next minute I'm like, I'm not so sure. So because of that, 6.5 out of 10. They're probably the second highest ranked couple I believe that I have on these two right now. So it's definitely strong between these two. I definitely think that they're one of the top tier favorites of staying together for this season. All right, who we're going to move on to? Let's do David and Michelle. Another questionable couple, right? Another questionable couple. Michelle might be must see TV for the rest of her life. I feel like this girl is going to be on our TV screens for many years to come. Do I think it's going to be with David? Absolutely, positively not. Man, there's definitely it reminds you of Hannah and Nick, where she's kind of like he's never really been independent and she's kind of being a little bit demanding on certain things, and kind of having to force him to get out of his own way when it comes to transforming into a husband, right? It's not easy to go from a bachelor to a husband overnight. um and these two are just, man, I don't know. She's kind of mean, but also trying to be like helpful, I guess you could say, at the same time. I don't think that she's really attracted to David. I think that's hindering. So listen, let's break this down real quick, all right? Not attracted, okay? Not really attracted to him, okay? He he is very much a hasn't really been independent and been like living in with a partner before. So the adapting of that, he needs to pick up, because there's a level of compromise in that, right? However, if you've never lived like alone before, or like with a significant other before, things, the dynamic shifts, and you have to be flexible in that dynamic, and I just don't see him there yet. um, I don't know. I don't think that these two are gonna last. I'm a solid, like, I'm 1 out of 10. I cannot see it happening. I don't really feel like there's a whole lot to talk about with these two, and because of that, we're just, we're treading water when it comes to a lot of these conversations between these couples. But for me, it's a hard no. You know what I mean? Like, I just like, I just don't foresee us breaking it down and them making it to the long run. But again, that's all five of them. That's all five couples. We're 4 episodes in. Could we change things around? Could things be a little bit different in the near future? They could be. But could I be wrong on some of these? Absolutely. But I'm interested to see. I'm going to keep my odds down. I'm going to keep them written down for you guys every week and see if they shift as the week goes by. If not, so be it, right? You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. But we are here. It's exciting. We'll be back next week. See if decision day predictions change at all. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys next week.